Hello. How lovely to see you. My name's Rev Ruth, but then some of you already know that. Hello little fishes, it's good to have you here. It's strange that we're not in church today, isn't it? But of course we can't go to church at the moment, so we have to stay in our houses. But I didn't want to miss out on being with little fishes today, and so I thought I could turn my shed in the garden into a place for little fishes. So here I am, in my shed, in the sunshine. You might be able to hear some traffic going by and a little bit of wind, but we'll try and ignore that. I love being in my shed. I often come here and read a book. Sometimes I come out here and have my breakfast, have a cup of coffee in the morning, and sometimes in the evenings when I'm relaxing I'll come out here too. Today I've made the shed into a little fish's shed just for you and me. For those of you who don't know what Little Fishes is about, Little Fishes meets every month at the Bridge Church in Redditch, and we gather together, mummies and daddies and grandmas and granddads and carers, and we come together and we hear stories about God and Jesus, and then we'll have some craft activity and we'll sing some songs, and then we eat chocolate biscuits, which is always good fun. I've brought my little fishes bag out of the house into the shed. So even though you're not here with me, I've got little fishes. Look, there's little fishes on my bag, and then here we've got lots of little fishes. So I'm going to put those on my table. What else have I got in here? I've got more little fishes. They're going on my table. And some very special little fish at the bottom of my bag. These little fish have come all the way from Spain. My friend Wendy was with me when I bought these little fish last year. So even when I'm on my holidays, I think about little fishes. Very special fish. So I'm going to put those on my table too. Well, I don't know who's watching this morning. There could be lots of you, or there could just be a few of you. Some of my nephews and nieces I know are going to be watching this, so I'm going to say hello to Dylan and to Adam and to Nathan and to Ellen. It's good to have you with us in Little Fishes. They can't normally join us because they live a long way away. Do you think Maureen's watching? I think she might be. I'm going to say hello to James and then hello to everybody, and then maybe you can sing hello to me. I'm going to wave at James. Say hello to James, say hello to you, say hello to everybody, how do you do? Do you remember? How about you sing to me now? I'll join in with you. Say hello to Ruth. Say hello to you, say hello to everybody, how do you do? Are you ready? Say hello to Ruth, say hello to you, say hello to everybody, how do you do? That was lovely. I could hear almost all of you. Have you seen in my shed, I've got little fishes all around the walls here, the Little Fishes song. So we don't need a monitor to hand out the Little Fishes song today, but we are going to sing it. Can you remember how it goes? I've got my words here. See if you can remember how it goes. Little fishes in the sea, little fish like you and me, swimming, swimming every day, thanking God in every way. With a splash, splash here and a splash, splash there, here a splash, there a splash, everywhere a splash, splash, swimming, swimming every day, thanking God in every way. Shall we sing that again? Little fishes in the sea, little fish like you and me, swimming, swimming every day, thanking God in every way. With a splash, splash here and a splash, splash there, here a splash, there a splash, everywhere a splash, splash, swimming, swimming every day, thanking God in every way. The story we're going to hear today is about a giant and a boy. I wonder if you can guess what that story is. The story is called in the Bible David and Goliath. I've got a picture here of David and Goliath. Can you see the big giant who was called Goliath? And the Bible tells us that Goliath was about 10 feet tall. 10 feet tall! Do you know anybody who's 10 feet tall? I don't think you do. That's very tall. Goliath was 10 feet tall, and on his head he wore a bronze helmet and he wore armour. He carried a bronze javelin across his shoulder, and the shaft of his spear was as thick as a man's arm. David was a little boy, and he wore no armour, and his only weapon was a sling. Gosh. So the story today is about Goliath the giant and David the little shepherd boy. I'm going to read the story from the Storyteller's Bible. It's a Bible that we often look at when we're in Little Fishes. So let's find the right page, shall we? There we go. Goliath was big. He had to stoop to get through doorways. His head was always bumping up against the ceiling, and his friends thought twice before inviting him up to dinner because he ate so much. Goliath had a big spear. The spear was 10 feet long at least, with a big iron point, and his big bronze armour weighed around 100 pounds or more. Goliath had a big voice too. One day he used it. He stamped out in front of his army of Philistines and shouted across the valley to the soldiers camped on the other side. "I am Goliath!" he bellowed. Can you shout loudly like Goliath? Let's hear if you can shout. Can you hear the wind blowing? Let's see if you can shout louder than the wind. Shout out, "I am Goliath! I am Goliath!" I think you can shout louder than that. Stand up, get ready to shout, "I am Goliath!" 1, 2, 3. Very good. Goliath shouted, "I dare any one of you to come and fight me. Win the fight, and we will all be your slaves. Lose the fight, and you must work for us," said Goliath. David was little, just a boy who looked after sheep. When he wanted a break from looking after sheep, he would take lunch to his brothers who were in the army. So one day he took some bread and cheese. And that was when he heard Goliath shout. David was a little cross. Who does that giant think he is? Doesn't he know that the Lord God himself watches over us? Why, with God's help, even I could beat that bully. So David took a little walk. He went to see the king. "I want to fight the giant," he said. The king almost fell off his throne. "But you're so little," he said. "And Goliath is, well, so big." "A lion is big," said David, "and so is a bear. But when they come after my sheep, the Lord God helps me to face them and fight them off, he will do the same with this giant." "All right," the king agreed, "but at least let me lend you some armour." But the armour was too big. It was too big and too heavy. When David wore it, he could hardly move, and so he took it off. He gave it back and picked up 5 little stones instead, and his sling and his trusted shepherd's crook. Goliath gave a big laugh when he saw the little shepherd boy. He took 2 big steps, and David ran away a little bit. 2 more giant steps from Goliath, and David ran a little further. By now they were in the middle of the valley, and everything was quiet. Goliath roared a big roar, sucked in a big breath of air, and raised his big spear, while David sneaked his little hand into his little pouch, pulled out a little stone and slipped it in his sling, and then he spun it around and around his head and let it fly. And before the giant could say another word, the stone struck him on the head, and he fell to the ground with a great big thud. David's side shouted a big "Hooray! Hooray!" Goliath's side whispered a little "Uh-oh." From then on, some pretty big things happened to the little shepherd boy. He was given a king's reward. He was promised the hand of the king's daughter in marriage, and one day he became a king himself. The very best kind of king that God's people had ever had. Did you like that story from the Bible about the giant Goliath and the little boy David? I wonder if you can be like a giant. How big can you make yourself? Why don't you stand up and stretch your arms up as high as they can go and make yourself big and tall and then big and wide? You do look like a giant. Now, how small can you go? Can you make yourself small like David? Can you go as small as you can? Roll up into a ball and make yourself small. That's brilliant. Here's a little rhyme about David and the giant. I've shown you this picture already, haven't I, about David and the giant? Well, here's another picture from another Bible I've got. Can you see Goliath there with his prickly, hairy legs? And can you see the shepherd boy David here with his red hair, tending his sheep? It doesn't look like David can beat Goliath, but we know he can. And then there's this rhyme. Another picture. Look, there's David. And look, here's this foot and a leg. It does look very hairy and very prickly, doesn't it? David took his brothers a lunch of cheese and bread. Soldiers on a battlefield, they needed to be fed. That's when he spied a giant foot and leg and arm and head, and heard the giant's challenge, and bravely stood and said, "God helped me beat a lion, God helped me beat a bear, so when my fears are giant-sized, I trust that God is there." You cannot fight that giant. his frightened brothers cried. "He'll squash you like an insect. He's more than twice your size. You're just a little shepherd boy. You should be terrified." But David knew that God would help, and that's why he replied, "God helped me beat a lion. God helped me beat a bear. So when my fears are giant-sized, I trust that God is there." So David went and told the king, "I'll take the giant's dare." "Then have my armour," said the king. "It's standing over there." When David tried it on, he found it much too hard to wear. "A sling and stones is all I need," he said. Well, and a prayer. God helped me beat a lion. God helped me beat a bear. So when my fears are giant-sized, I trust that God is there. The giant looked at David. He growled and cursed and roared. "You send this stick-sized boy against my spear and shield and sword? I'll beat him without trying, then feed him to the birds." But David reached inside his pouch where his 5 stones were stored. "God helped me beat a lion. God helped me beat a bear. So when my fears are giant-sized, I trust that God is there." The giant rushed towards him, his face an angry red. David swung his sling and aimed straight for the giant's head. That small stone struck its target. The giant fell down dead. And as his brothers clapped and cheered, David simply said, "God helped me beat a lion. God helped me beat a bear. So when my fears are giant-sized, I trust that God is there." They're really good words to remember, aren't they? That God helped David beat lions and bears and even giants. We should trust that God can help us when we have giant problems to face. The story of David and Goliath reminds me a little bit about what's happening in the world just now. Have you heard of the big virus that's called coronavirus? It's so big that it's changing the way that we do things. No school, no church. Some people can't go to work, they're working from home. We can't go and visit our relatives. We can't go and meet our friends. Some of the shops are shut. We can't go and eat out. We can't go to McDonald's. And some people are wearing face masks and gloves. And we can't meet in big groups outside our houses. The virus is making some people feel very frightened. Some people live on their own, and so the virus is making some people feel very lonely. It's a sad time for lots of people. So what can we do about a big virus like that? What can little fishes do against a big giant? Well, often the Bible has the answers, and the Bible teaches us that we can do little things, just like David did with the little stone. When David was fighting Goliath, remember how a small stone killed the giant. Some small things can be really powerful. Washing our hands. Washing our hands carefully, round and round, over the back, and the thumbs. Washing our hands. Just a small thing, but it can kill the virus. Staying at home. It's not really nice having to stay at home every single day, but it's not a big thing for us to have to do. So staying at home can help to kill the virus. What's another small thing that we can do? Well, we can find ways to cheer people up. Maybe you've already put a rainbow painting in your window, which cheers people up when they walk around the streets for their walk. And even though we have to stay apart, we can still find ways of being together, like at Little Fishes today. Or joining in with our neighbours when they're clapping to say well done to our nurses and our doctors who are caring for people in hospital. And finally, something which sounds really small but is really, really big is saying our prayers, just like David did. 5 small things like David's 5 small stones. Washing our hands, staying at home, finding ways to cheer people and to be kind, finding ways to show people we care, and saying our prayers. Hello, I've come inside now, inside my house. I've left the she shed, and it's just me and my doggy Casper. Oh, hold on, what's this ball? There you go, Casper. Can you see that my lounge is in a bit of a mess? I've got lots of old boxes around the house. I thought it might be a good idea as a challenge for you all if you could build your own giant at home. It may be that you have some old boxes like these, or some smaller boxes, or maybe you could build a giant out of some pillows and some cushions. Maybe you could build a giant out of some Lego pieces. Whatever you want to do, I would ask you to build a giant and then ask a grown-up in your house if they can send me a picture of your giant. That would be really good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble all of these boxes and see if I can build a giant. Do you think I can do it? I wonder what you decided to build your giant Goliath out of. We've used our boxes which we found lying around, and we've drawn a scary face, and we've even given him some blonde hair. That's all I'm saying. So I wonder, did you use cushions and pillows? Did you use pieces of Lego, or did you find boxes around the house? Whatever you did, I wonder if your giant is as big as this, or at least a lot bigger than you are. This giant's a lot bigger than me, isn't he? Shall we see if I can knock him down? So I've built the giant out of boxes found around the house, and now I've got to try and find a way of knocking the giant's head off. Do you remember how David had 5 smooth stones and put them in his slingshot? It would be silly, wouldn't it, if I brought some stones into the house and tried to throw them at the giant. That would be dangerous. What I have got are 5 tennis balls. I'm giving myself permission to throw one of the tennis balls in the house. I'm going to be really, really careful, but it may be that you have some ping pong balls or some foam balls, or you could just ask somebody, a grown-up in the house, what would be the best thing to throw at your giant, but be careful and do it safely. So I'm going to take just one of these tennis balls and see if I can knock the giant's head off. I hope this works. If you're going to try knocking your giant down in the house, make sure that you're using something which is allowed to be used in the house. So I'm going to use one of Casper's tennis balls. Look, he thinks he's about to go chasing for it. Let's see if I can knock the giant's head off. Hey! We're coming to the end of our time together, this online Little Fishes session. It's been lovely to have you here with me at my house, in the shed, and now in my house in the living room. it's time for me to go now, but before I do, I'm going to say a prayer. It's some words that we heard earlier in the poem that I read about David and the giant. God helped me beat a lion, God helped me beat a bear, so when my fears are giant-sized, I trust that God is there. Dear God, we thank you that you are big enough and strong enough and brave enough to help us when we are feeling sad, scared, lonely, or fearful. We offer you our prayers and ask that you keep us safe and all of those who we love, today, tomorrow, and forever. Amen. And so it's time to sing our goodbye song. I'm on my own, so I'm just going to sing it to you, and you can sing it back to me. Goodbye boys, goodbye boys, goodbye girls, goodbye girls. Lovely to see you, lovely to see you at Little Fishes, at Little Fishes. See you soon.